afternoon, fans. Welcome to another episode of West Coast Big Ten. We're in episode number 4. Got my co-host Wayne Cook, Bruin legend. Wayne, what's going on?
Just you know what, riding a win streak for UCLA, but I'm excited about all the Pac-12, I guess Big Ten West schools. But UCLA takes on Washington, so we take care of those two right there. USC is going to play a new quarterback after a bye. Oregon's just going to keep plotting along, so I'm excited. It should be a good week of football.
Excited about that. And, it was homecoming week. It was a big buzz after that win. I was at the press conference with Coach Foster, Ethan, Femi at the end, and TJ. All good spirits. One common denominator, I think what Ethan was talking about was they know how to win right now. And not only that is it's fun, right? So to the Bruins' defense, I think if the season started today again, Wayne, we talked about that before we got on the pod. I think that UCLA would fare very well at the schedule. I think they're getting used to the Big Ten type of vibe, flying across country. I think they'll do even better if the season started reset today.
So UCLA is playing much better football, and it's funny because I listened to the coaches talk about it, and I actually think that the struggles they went through with one of the more difficult schedules in the country has led them to playing better football. So to beat a Nebraska team that was supposed to have a really highly ranked defense and to have the offensive day that they had, to come back and beat a 6-3 Iowa team at the Rose Bowl that was supposed to be the line of scrimmage team, right? The team that's going to beat you at the line of scrimmage and run the football down your throat. UCLA was the team that won the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball and ran the ball down their throat. So the improvements have been amazing. But remember, Rutgers, we looked like we were going to pull away, and we kind of let them hang in there, and they almost tried to come back. Nebraska, similar type thing, kind of let them hang around. And Iowa, as Ethan Garbers pointed out to me right after the game, he said, I gave 14 points away with the interception going into the end zone and then with the fumble going into the end zone. And so that game should have been a bigger win too. So here's what's fun. You're winning 3 games. You move yourself up into the middle of the conference. Because what you don't want is you don't want to look like you're a bottom feeder in your first year in a new conference. And they've got a chance to move up quite a bit more into that top third, which is what I'm looking for. Right? You win a couple more games down the stretch, and I personally think that UCLA should be in all 3 of these games with a chance to win. But the point I'm trying to make is you've got to close out. Washington's been in a lot of tight games this year, but their schedule's gotten harder as of late, and they've lost 3 out of the last 4. But if you look at Washington's schedule, they've also played at Iowa, at Indiana, and at Penn State. That kind of is like a little bit like what we were dealing with earlier in the year. And, of course, they lost all 3 of those games, and they barely snuck out one against USC. So SC's schedule is brutal down the stretch. They've still got Notre Dame hovering along with a tough game this week for them. So, UCLA's in a great spot, but you got to take care of business. I think it's a good matchup against the Huskies, but remember, the Huskies have won 19 straight home games. So that's going to be tough to win up there.
And you've played up there before, Wayne. The weather, it's a little bit different. It's just tough football up there. It's different. Wayne, talk about that as you as a player, what it's like to go up to Washington and play football up there.
Well, I was 1-1 as a starter against Washington. We beat them big at the Rose Bowl in 93. Went up there in 94 and lost in kind of a rainy day. I didn't play in a ton of rainy days. One of the perks of being a UCLA quarterback, you didn't play in a lot of rain. But it was a little rainy and a little gloomy and a little cold and a little whatever. And so I don't have a great experience, but I've been there a ton of times. I remember going up to that stadium and watching Maurice Jones-Drew run for 300 and some yards. There's been some really fun days up there, but it is a loud stadium. Yeah. It's a gorgeous stadium. We may have weather. It's a really, really fun place to watch a football game, but it's also a very difficult place to play, which is why they have this long win streak. It's hard to win there. So UCLA, if there's any team that's been tested on like road games, literally like Penn State, LSU, Nebraska, the school has already played at a ton of tough environments. Now, granted, they've only won one of those, but I think they're going to be comfortable and playing in that kind of noise, and so I think that helps them.
Yeah, game time weather is going to be 44 degrees at kickoff. I'm looking for TJ to have another big game
Yep.
on the ground, and I think that what TJ was saying is on going back to the press conference, Wayne. They just know how to win now, and they're getting comfortable with that. So I look for TJ to have a big game. I look for Ethan to keep the Bruins close with his legs as well. I know you can't predict this game. I'm going to predict this game as well, Wayne. I'm calling it 28-10. 18 points
Okay.
to win. And I was kind of right in the last one. I called 23-17, almost there. And I'm hoping for a Bruin win.
So I love it. Yeah, let me add something without giving a number. I would predict something closer, but I like where your head's at. So here's the matchup issue in this game, in my opinion. You mentioned T.J. Harden. He's coming off his best game running the ball. He's been a great receiver all year. But really, him and Berger before he got hurt, remember, some of the players that were hurt last week may be coming back, like Matavao, like J. Mike. I don't know about Berger. We'll see. So that's good. But what I like is I think that UCLA should be able to run the ball against Washington. I think that is, they have good players. They have a Bruner who's a really good linebacker, but I really feel like we can run the ball against these guys. The other part of the ball, though, that I'm a little anxious about, and I think Will Rogers is going to be the quarterback. We'll see if they go with Williams. I know he played the second half last week. But this is a team that can throw the ball under Jed Fish. When Rogers has played, he completes over 70% of his passes, and Williams does too. They're both at like 71 point something percent. UCLA's pass defense is still ranked 115. Now, part of that's just a product of the way the season's played out and all that stuff. I don't think they're that bad. But they're going to have to – the pass defense is going to have a good game. But here's the deal. I think we can get to the quarterback. I don't think Washington's offensive line is that good. So the pass rush led by Femi and Jay Toia will hopefully make it uncomfortable and help the secondary out. But that's the matchup that I'm interested in watching is the pass defense for UCLA and how well it does.
I agree, Wayne. I think if we can duplicate what Penn State did to them last week, go heavy on the run, because let's look at Penn State's offense. It's not exactly the greatest offense on earth. So if we could just duplicate that, and to what you said, Wayne, have the KJ Wallaces, have the Brian Addisons play tighter, and just have,
Yeah.
like you said, Femi and Jay just go at it. I love that prediction, Wayne. So let's preview Oregon and Wisconsin real quick. Oregon, same thing again, Wayne. They're dominating, but they're letting people in the ball game. It was closer than it really was. Oregon plays Wisconsin. They're 14-point favorites. What do you see in that game? What do you like?
So it's funny because we just watched Iowa, and we take on an elite running back, and Iowa ran for 300 and something yards against Wisconsin. Iowa ran for 80 against UCLA. So I know Wisconsin is a very tough place to play. I know that they had some resurgence of wins, but I would argue that that wasn't against a very difficult schedule when they did that. I think Oregon is a much better team. I would be shocked if, and again, Oregon doesn't always keep their foot on the gas. So then, whatever that number is, was it 14 that they're favored by? Whatever it is, Oregon's a 21-point better team, at least. So they've got to play their game. And remember, and this is one thing that I love to talk about with people, there's the pressure of being undefeated. There's the pressure of being the number one team in the country. And this is kind of new territory for Oregon. They've always been ranked. They've always been up there, but they are literally the number one team in the country. They knocked off Ohio State. People are going to start questioning, like I heard people talking about it today. Someone was trying to say that they still think Georgia and Ohio State are the best teams in the country. And I'm like, well, how would you say that when Oregon played them? But that's the way people's brains work. Well, if they played 5 more times, the other team would win. Well, okay, fine, but we saw the game, and Oregon beat them. Now, it was a good game. So I think Oregon, but I don't think Wisconsin's that good. I actually think they're worse than their record. I'll give them a little bit, maybe 3 points or so for playing at home. But I do think Oregon wins. I think they're too good, and I'm going to keep saying this until I can't say it anymore. I think that Dylan Gabriel is, and I know Travis Hunter's up there. I know Genty's up there. I think Jackson Dart should have moved up the list of Heisman after what he did to Georgia last week. There's some really good players, but Dylan Gabriel don't ignore him just because he makes it look so easy.
Yeah.
I think sometimes he makes it look easy, and I think, well, he's not making the spectacular play. I go, yeah, but he's making the right play a lot. And to me, that's what a great player does. So I like Oregon, and I like them by like 3 touchdowns. I think they're that good.
There you guys. Wayne says 3 touchdowns. If you're betting, go ahead. And I feel like you can as well. If I was betting, I would actually go heavy on that one. I think they're going to win by 21 plus. Just talking about Dylan real quick. I agree. He's just too talented. He's throwing off. Even his back foot throws are just looking amazingly easy. And I think with what you said, Wayne, he's just got to be more aggressive in certain type of games because letting loose, if you're going towards college playoff time, and you're lackadaisical in your plays and your progressions, guess what? This isn't you can't just come back from behind. Unfortunately, in some of these games. Good call, Wayne. Talking about our next game, our preview is Nebraska against USC. You've seen Dylan Raiola up in personal. We've seen his struggles versus UCLA. Wayne, they're 9.5 point favorites. USC at home. Where do you see this one going?
So this is interesting to me because they're going to play a new quarterback in Mayava, and the more I watch film of what he did at UNLV, and and I already said this last time, I kind of think Miller Moss is the scapegoat here. He hasn't been perfect, but he is not the reason they're losing all these games. I actually think the lack of using Marks more as a running back, I think they put too much on. This defense, while every time I watch any show, they keep talking about Dantlin, they're still not ranked very high in defense. Like, they want to give them all the credit in the world. They're great on third down. They're one of the best teams on third down. So that's going to cause Raiola some issues because they'll mix it up and make him uncomfortable. But the defense overall still has a lot of weaknesses. And so here's the problem, though. And this isn't a problem. It's a good thing for USC. So does Nebraska. Nebraska is just falling apart. They're starting to question whether or not they're going to get, they've been one game away from bowl eligible, and they haven't been to a bowl in a while, and they can't seem to win any games. I still think their defense is solid, but I think Dylan Raiola has gone the wrong direction. They have actually replaced their offensive coordinator with, Dana Holgerson, the West Virginia coach from the past, who I think might be a pretty good move because that guy's a really smart mind. And it could be, and listen, there's rumors floating around that Raiola might be one of those guys that started thinking about maybe this is the wrong place for me. So you make the offensive coordinator switch to try to make sure you keep him. But, Nebraska fans, be careful what you wish for. I don't know if any of that's true at all. But if quarterbacks are starting to contemplate, because they're playing badly, whether or not the school's right for them, really, play better. I got to watch it up close and personal. He played like a freshman. Start working on your feet. Watch Dylan. Yeah, you just talked about Dylan Gabriel. I actually think Dylan Gabriel's got great feet. I love the way he goes through his progressions. I love the way he does stuff. Yes, he can throw off platform if he has to, but he also will step into his throws when he can. When you see a lot of these young quarterbacks, I don't care if it's Iama Leava or Dylan Raiola or whoever, you will notice they're in that. I've studied Patrick Mahomes my whole life. I go, well, great. Well, Patrick Mahomes is amazing, and he's won multiple Super Bowls, and he's good at everything other than just throwing off platform. He can do all the other little things right, too. So if you're a young quarterback, as Kurt Warner says, if you can't make the layups, then you're not going to be a good quarterback. And so for Raiola, I watched it in the UCLA game. He's throwing a 20-yard, deep crossing route when he has a guy 5 yards in front of him, wide open, with nobody in 10 yards of him. Make the layup, young man. And if he learns to do that, I think he's got a ton of talent. But he's not there yet. When you watch Dylan Gabriel, he's real good at taking the layups, but then he can hit the explosive plays well, too. And that's because he's been playing, college football for a million years. So I like USC in this game. There's no way USC can lose another really close game. There's no way they're going to have a lead in the fourth quarter and lose it, because they do that in almost every one of their losses. So I'm going to predict that USC is going to be up by a couple of touchdowns late, and then they're going to be able to hold on and win this one. So I like SC, especially at home, Be a little bit different, I think, if they played at Nebraska, but at home, I think they're going to get this one.
I agree, Wayne. I think they're going to win by 7 points. I think if they're going to do anything
Oh,
like they
there you
did
go.
versus Maryland or Rutgers, they just gotta. I think their secondary just needs a lot of work. It just they let legit Maryland come down, drive on it 3 times, and
Yep.
if they let Dylan Raiola do that, I'm sorry, they might even lose the game. But I'm going Trojans and win by a touchdown. Wayne, I want to just talk about the Bruins' last 3 games real briefly. I talked to Matt Barnes on the sidelines and asked Matt, how does it feel to be almost bowl eligible? So we have 3 remaining games. I know you don't want to jinx anything or say anything, but let's talk about those opponents real quick. Fresno State, USC, and of course Washington we just talked about. But out of those 3 opponents, Wayne, who do you think gives UCLA a little bit difficulty that might give them some problems?
Well, the next two are going to be tough. Like we haven't shown that we're going to take it to anybody yet. We've shown signs of being a good enough team to win games against Nebraska and Rutgers and Iowa. I would argue Iowa on the national scale made the biggest impression. Everybody thought that they would push UCLA around, and they did not. UCLA is proving again that they're way. This is why I always get mad at people like, well, the Big Ten's so much more physical. I'm like, come on. We play against Utah and Washington in their heyday. Like if you play against those in Oregon, I mean, like it's not like those teams can't compete and don't have big players that are really, really good. So I didn't think that was as big a deal as people made it out to be, and I think we kind of proved it. If you look at Jay Toia and you tell me he couldn't play in any league in America, you're crazy. If you look at Carson Schlesinger and Kay Madrano and you say those two guys couldn't play on any team, I mean, they could. They're that good. We have really, really Fime. He could play. He could play middle linebacker or off the edge. Guy had 4 TFLs against Iowa. An elite O line. So those guys are balling out, and it's been fun to watch. So to me, I'm not going to get over cocky because people love to do that. They've got a shot at winning all 3. You're not just going to sit there and say, oh, it's Fresno State I feel good about, because I don't want to feel good about that one either. Even though of the 3, the way Fresno has played this year, and they haven't been bad, but I think UCLA should beat Fresno. I really do. Especially, but the other 2, it's Washington on the road, and I don't care who you are, that's a hard place to play. They still have good players, but I do like what UCLA has, and that's why I think they're the better team. But again, turnovers, kicking game, the weather could play a factor. There's a lot of weird things that can happen, but you want to make sure if in Garber's, come on, dude, you're playing so good, and I give you so much praise, but don't jump up while you're taking a hit and try and throw a ball. Just tuck it and take the sack. Secure it when you're near the goal line. That was a great play by the defense, by the way, that caused that fumble, but still. All those things are going to matter. So UCLA, as of right now, playing its best football of the year. Clean up the mistakes. 15-yard penalties, I bet you we have as much as anybody in the country. I haven't looked up the stats, but I swear we get more 15-yarders than anybody. All of these things play a role. So clean up the penalties, clean up the turnovers, and I literally think this can be a team that ends up with 7 wins. And what's awesome about that is now you're talking about moving up the ladder. The Big Ten this year is top heavy. There's a ton of teams with 3 wins right now. When you look at the standings, there's teams above UCLA, but it's because they're 3-3, not 3-4, right? There's a bunch of those. So Michigan is a 3-win team right now. So if you come in first year and you find a way to win 2 or 3 of these last games, and trust me, I'm being optimistic, I think they can win all 3. You move up the ranks, and it helps with recruiting, it helps with transfers. It solidifies this coaching staff and what they've done this year, because I think they've done a fantastic job in a very difficult schedule. And so all of that stuff matters a ton. But could we lose 2 out of the last 3? We could. So you gotta show up every week, and you've got to play. Take the Iowa game and eliminate the mistakes, and now we're talking.
I agree, Wayne. It's a lot of just discipline problems, as what Coach Foster was talking about. It's small little things, the penalties and things like that. But I agree. The buzz at the Rose Bowl against Iowa was real. Fans were excited. We had a great crowd out there when you saw it. And I just feel like, it does help for recruiting. Kids are coming out. We saw the recruits there. They look excited. They saw a hell of a show. And I feel like next year, if we can keep a core group back, if Justin Martin returns, I think we have a really great shot at having a really successful season as well, Wayne.
Well, and you never know. I mean, the off seasons are crazy now with free agency. I really like Justin Martin. I like a lot of our players. I love the fact that some of our linemen, Sam Yoon is, he'll come back. I want to say that Giorgio has more eligibility. I think we've seen Prongos. He's going to have more eligibility. Jalen Jeffers came in for Prongos and played really, really well at left tackle last week. He's got more eligibility. We're going to lose Carlin and Holsteg, but if you bring back 3 O linemen, you can find ways to replace those guys. But we're going to have skill guys coming back. We're going to have, you're going to have to replace the running backs. But this is stuff that UCLA can do. Schlesinger's got more eligibility. So, there's a lot of talent, but then when you're winning, enticing people to come to your school to get that UCLA education, the NIL programs are working really hard to try to get the money it takes to compete for some of these athletes. And just keeping the coaching staff together because they've done a great job. For all of these teams, all of this stuff is going to matter. Washington's going to want to reload. The only team that's sitting pretty right now is Oregon. Oregon's, coach is solidified. Yeah, they're going to lose Dylan Gabriel, but they're going to have enough money to go out on the market and find whoever they want to find. And it may be, maybe Dante Moore grows into that position. We don't know yet. But we know they can go out and recruit pretty much whatever they want. So all of these schools want to keep, especially the 3 that are not Oregon, want to finish strong and want to show all the recruits and all the transfers out there that they're a team that's building and going in the right direction.
I like what you just said right there, Wayne. Let me bring up a point before we end the show. It's just so weird right now, Wayne, that you can see and recruit a quarterback instantly by the NILs, right? So let me ask you this question. Who's a quarterback out there that you like if you can say Fitz being a Bruin out there right now, currently out there, that you would love to see wearing that blue and gold?
So I'm going to give you an example, and this is not going to answer your question because the problem with most of the quarterbacks that are playing really well, most of them, they're probably going to stay. They're probably going to find a way to stay. But the example that I'll give you is a few years ago when Dorian Thompson-Robinson was, had a chance to come back for a senior year or for an extra year or go pro. We had Dylan Gabriel committed to UCLA. I don't know if you remember that. He was literally committed to go to UCLA. So I scoured the UCF video, and I'm watching the UC, and I'm sitting there going, this guy's really good. Oh my gosh, I really like him. I'm and my buddies are like, who's this Dylan Gabriel? And I'm like, you guys watch the film. He's got touch. He's got an arm. He can move. He just looks like a quarterback. And sure enough, Dorian decides to stay, which means Dylan is not going to be able to come in and start. So then he goes to Oklahoma. And then the crazy thing about his story is it sounded like they were pushing him out at Oklahoma because they wanted to play Jackson, who has not panned out. And now he's at Oregon doing his thing. So I don't have a guy like, I'm not going to say this for UCLA because I don't really like the players that switch back and forth. But although I will take Jay Tawia any day of the week, so I shouldn't say what I just said. Jay Tawia, thank you for coming to UCLA. But Miller Moss is a good quarterback. And if it's true that he's, in the portal, which I would be a little bummed if I was him too, because I feel like he's being blamed for all their issues, and I don't think it's his fault.
No, I think it was wrong for Lincoln Riley to say he was doing best for the team by starting or actually benching Miller Moss. I think that was you're right. I concur with you. That's a scapegoat move. I think the next year, if Lincoln Riley continues to lose on this platform, doing the same things over again, when I think there needs to be a change in Trojan land. So I'll leave it at that. Wayne, thank you so much. It's another successful show. I will see you again next week. I know you guys play Washington. I think you guys fly out on Thursday, right?
I'm heading up tomorrow. I'm going to work my regular day job and then hop on a plane and head up to cold 40-something degrees. I'm probably going to wear gloves and a beanie for the first time all year, but the players won't care. They're going to go out there. It's an awesome atmosphere. So these guys, the Bruins, are going to have so much fun playing up there.
Now, good luck up there, Wayne, and I'll see you again next week. And this concludes another episode of West Coast Big Ten.